So at the Surya Chinchwa office, I've kind of developed a reputation for being the smartwatch salesman of the office. And while that's definitely meant in humor, or at least I think it is, the big pile of smartwatches and wearables in general on my table in the office don't exactly help me to escape the jokes. But in my quest to find the perfect smartwatch for myself, I've discovered two main things. Firstly, there's no such thing as a perfect smartwatch, and secondly, more expensive doesn't always necessarily mean better. I know a lot of you are probably watching this video because, you want to buy a smartwatch, and maybe you aren't exactly clear on which one to get or how much you should pay for one. Well, that's where I come in, and we're gonna look at three very different price points to find out which one's the best fit for you. On the affordable end of the spectrum, you have fitness bands. These usually have really small screens, basic fitness functions, but that's usually offset by great battery life. And among the best of them, in my opinion, is the Mi Band 4. As I said, you get a great battery life of up to 2 weeks, a really durable design with this rubbery finish. It's all priced at a really budget-friendly point of below 200 ringgit. But just like many fitness bands, the Mi Band 4 is still limited by its hardware. The 1.4-inch OLED display is still too small to really be a practical way of reading messages, and because it's so small, you don't really get stuff like quick replies or anything of the sort. Still, you get notifications, and as mentioned, you get quite a lot of bang for buck with enough functionality for most people. However, fitness bands don't really have the nicest displays, and part of the appeal, at least to me, of a wearable is a nice, beautiful, vivid display that I can look at all the time. And if you're like me, you'll like the next category a little bit more. Now let's talk about the mid-range, where smartwatches can cost anywhere from 600-700 ringgit up to like 2,000 ringgit. And at the more affordable sub 1,000 ringgit end, you have pseudo smartwatches. Devices like the Honor Magic Watch 2 and the Huawei Watch GT2. And if you're willing to cross the 4-digit threshold, then you'd be looking at options like the Samsung Galaxy Watch Active 2 or even the Apple Watch. The biggest difference between the two, besides the price, app support mostly. With the Honor Magic Watch 2, there's no support for apps beyond what's already pre-installed on the smartwatch, but you still get a lot of the same features that you'd get on a fully fledged smartwatch. Some of the pros include a built-in microphone and speaker, as well as GPS, and you get a much nicer and bigger display than something that you'd see on a fitness band. You can also upload MP3s to the Honor Magic Watch 2 and many of its counterparts, and hook up a pair of Bluetooth headphones and use it as an MP3 player. Although I'm not sure if many of you still have music in MP3 format anymore. The Honor Magic Watch 2 has pretty good battery life as well, around 11 days with varied usage, and that's a figure that's pretty impressive because it's even better than some fitness band. Unlike fully fledged smartwatches, these pseudo smartwatches are kind of like fitness bands with a few smartwatch features built inside a smartwatch's body, and because of that, they generally have really good battery lives for smartwatches. On the other hand, proper smartwatches or fully fledged smartwatches like the Samsung Galaxy Watch Active 2 or the Apple Watch, they offer you a lot of the same thing but with standalone app support. So this means that you can install stuff like Spotify, your running app of choice, or even YouTube in certain cases. There are also a few subtle differences, like the ability to send quick replies, for example, something that you wouldn't be able to do on a pseudo smartwatch. But a major difference of all of that is that your battery life will generally suffer. But then again, that's a fair trade-off for some. Now, what if money wasn't a problem? What can you expect at the high end? So the high end is a little bit hard to define because you can spend anywhere from 4,000 ringgit up to like the hundreds of thousands of ringgit. But I think for the most part, it's safe to say that high-end watches are specifically built for the enthusiasts. You've got the more reasonable devices like the Garmin Fenix 6X Sapphire Edition, which retails for about 4,199 ringgit. up to the Garmin Mark collection, which is the more luxury edition, and that can go up to, I think, 13 to 15,000 ringgit. And there's even the Breitling Exospace Aviator smartwatch, which retails anywhere from 5,000 ringgit up to something like 30,000 ringgit. So I think a good example of this kind of smartwatch is the Garmin Fenix 6X Pro Solar, like the one that I've got here on my wrist. So this is the top of the line model from Garmin's Fenix series, and it retails for about 4,699 ringgit. So what are you paying for at such a high price? Well, for starters, it's a huge smartwatch, so I don't know if most users or everybody would really appreciate the ginormous size of this thing, although I definitely do. Still, I love how solid it feels. It has a real heft to it, and it feels like it can take an actual beating. I think the Fenix 6X Sapphire Edition is probably a little bit tougher because, it's sapphire, but what I really like about the Pro Solar is that it uses something called Power Glass for solar charging. I don't think the same would work with a sapphire glass face because when we compared it side by side, it looks like there's a slight tint over it, so perhaps it affects the efficiency of the solar panels instead. But the Fenix 6X Pro Solar definitely takes some time to get used to. And I think a large part of that is because number one, it's not a touchscreen. So instead you have 5 physical buttons to help you navigate your way through the watch. And secondly, it uses something called a transflective display. And this means that you don't get such a bright and vivid display as you normally get on a conventional smartwatch's AMOLED display. Still, I think that helps contribute to a really impressive battery life estimate of 21 days in smartwatch mode. But despite these cool features, I still wasn't entirely sold on the idea. So to help me better understand, I spoke to Amin, who has been a strong advocate of these smartwatches for as long as I can remember. Thanks for joining us, Amin.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
What is the difference between something like this and like an Apple Watch?
Obviously the display, so this has a full color display. That means this has better battery life. I wouldn't say I'm an advocate, but I would say that these smartwatches have different degree of accuracy and function. The reason why I'm always into like specialty watches,
yeah, this is a 6X,
is because I don't look like it, but I'm kind of like a sports person. I do diving, sometimes running, so mostly diving. So I cannot take my Apple Watch diving. It doesn't have the diving functions that I need. So it doesn't tell me what my bottom time is. It doesn't tell me how much is my no deco limit time. The way I see it is it's like this is built for people who know what they need in terms of the data that they need. So this has more functionality than any normal person would need. In essence, this is more of a smartwatch than the Garmin, but it is lesser of a sports watch than the Garmin.
But what about like people who just, maybe, because you mentioned that you're like a diver,
Yeah.
What about if you're just like a cyclist? Because I like to cycle as well. So as a cyclist, to me, I was cycling around. I was cycling to work actually. I don't know if you noticed.
Yes.
But I was cycling to work, and I found that the difference between using like the Garmin Fenix Pro and using like a Galaxy Watch, Galaxy Watch Active 2, the differences are not that great. I don't know if you mentioned like accuracy. How do you measure the accuracy for you?
You're like a casual cyclist. You don't really care how much of how fast your cadence is, what your power output is, what your pace is. You're not taking like 100 kilometers routes. Any smartwatch is fine if you only need to know what your heart rate is. As a matter of like arbitrary numbers, it's fine. But if you need to go deeper, I would argue that a specialist smartwatch like a Garmin would do that better than any of these smartwatches. The huge thing about Garmin is that it's big on navigation, and a lot of people don't know. So a lot of people who are just into, if you're into the smartwatch context, right? Yeah, you look at Garmin as a watch, but Garmin as the industry as a whole, right? Standard equipment for navigation in planes, in boats, and also in cars. So in terms of accuracy and knowing what they like, the capability of tracking your location and as an instrument of data, right? Garmin is like really way up there because you trust it for your life. But I don't wear them on a daily basis.
Is that because you don't like the navigation? Does it ever get boring to?
No, I like the look, and I like how it's like really distinct on my wrist, and when I wear, especially my Mark 1, people can know that I'm a diver, and I like that. I mean, it's like that's what watches are for. People wear Rolex just to show that, hey, it's kind of like an understated statement of what your personality and what you are and what your status is. Similarly to people who wear Apple Watches and change their bands, or people who wear Garmin watches. So if somebody wears a Garmin watch like a Fenix 6, right? It's like a statement to say, hey, I'm into sports, or you know, or at least I want people to believe that I'm into sports.
Hey, I'm into sports.
Yeah, or I'm serious, right? There's no one watch that does everything, at least for me, or at least for the data set that I want.
Yeah, for sure.
A watch is a precision tool, right? With the movements and everything. That's like a physical watch. Now you have smartwatches with all this display, and it's all digital inside, right? But with the Garmin, it has a barometer. I think it has a thermometer. I can't remember. All of the measurement, all the tools that measure all the parameters that you need for running or swimming or triathletes or surfing, paddle boarding, and whatever. There's
Hiking,
like
you know,
100 so many different kind of sports that you can configure.
Yeah.
The accuracy is so much better. So as a precision tool, right, this is so much better. This is a serious piece of kit. And you're talking about price, yes, because it is a serious piece of kit. It's a precision tool. Yeah, if you need just one watch to wear every day, it's definitely not the Garmin, because if you don't run every day, you don't train every day, you don't compete regularly, you don't need a Garmin.
I mean, you heard it here first. A specialist watch, but not an everyday watch, and he's wearing an Apple Watch. So if you
I don't need to trust my life today.
I think one of the most interesting things here is how the term smartwatch has evolved over the years. You think of fitness bands and how they're so drastically different from smartwatches like the Garmin Fenix 6X series, and that's totally okay. The way I see it, wearables sit on a spectrum of sorts now, fitness bands on one end and specialist smartwatches, as Amin calls them, on the other. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you'd only buy a fitness band if you were on a really tight budget, or you'd only buy a specialist smartwatch if you had a lot of cash to burn. Ultimately, it really depends on what you're planning to use your wearable for. If you're looking for something simple on a budget that has a battery that will last you for ages, the Mi Band 4 will be a good choice. If you're looking for something to accompany you on that solo hike around the country, you know, the Garmin for sure. If you're looking for something that does a little bit of everything, I think that the mid-range smartwatch ticks all the necessary boxes for me. That said, deciding between the superior battery life of pseudo smartwatches like the Honor Magic Watch 2 and the added functionality of fully fledged smartwatches like the Apple Watch or the Samsung Galaxy Watch Active 2 is a little bit more of a difficult choice. But personally, I think I would prefer something like the Honor Magic Watch 2. All in all, I think the point I'm making is that the most expensive wearable or smartwatch isn't necessarily always the best choice. At least, not the best choice for you. So what do you guys think about this video? If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them, especially if you have a different opinion than I do. Please leave them in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell icon so that you don't miss any future videos. So that's all for now. This is Nick signing off. Bye!
Touch your phone! Touch your phone!